And we're live. Greetings, friends. Happy Sunday. How's everyone tonight? Miko Herptile is here, and Miko says, hello, superantonio, Sadie, mods, and everyone. We'll be listening in the background. Have a good stream, everyone. Miko, I'm glad you're in the background, and that's exactly how I like everyone to consume my content. Just have me on the background, yapping away while you go about your day or play video games. What's that about? I just like, think of me as trying to keep you company and trying to make your day a little better, or night in this case. How is everyone? I hope you're ready for the week. David says, there he is. Greetings, David. How's your weekend going? How was your weekend? I hope you're doing well. I hope your PT is going well. Shout out to your lovely wife, Chrissy. What else? David says, did you catch Starheart's new video? I did. I left a like. I'm glad she's uploading now. It makes me happy. It gives me hope that, like you, she can, get on the road to recovery and we can put all this behind us. 5 viewers in the chat. Welcome, friends. We're going to talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street tonight from 1984. Did I have the correct title? Yes. Okay. Starring, or rather introducing, Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp's first movie, his feature film debut. And I got to say that, he just plays a teenager. He's a boyfriend. And you can tell there's something about him. It's like you can tell that he's got that X factor, that charisma, that star quality. The screen loves him. He has those cheekbones. He's so young. Chrissy says, hi all, Chrissy V74, and she has a heart for David. And David has a heart for Chrissy. What's that about? I should put in a heart for Sadie. That would be funny. I won't do it, but it makes me laugh. And you gotta laugh. Okay, where's the I got a slideshow for you again, and as always, to circumvent licensing issues, doesn't take up the whole screen. So let's talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984. A Nightmare on Elm Street is a 1984 American supernatural slasher film written and directed by Wes Craven, who you might know from the Scream series, and produced by Robert Shea. It is the first installment in the A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, and I want to mention it is A Nightmare on Elm Street, not Nightmare on Elm Street. It's a specific nightmare. And stars Heather Langenkamp, John Saxon, Ronnie Blakely, Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger, and Johnny Depp in his film debut. The film's plot concerns a group of teenagers who are targeted by Freddy Krueger, an undead child canceller who can murder people algorithm, who can cancel people in their dreams. And I really wanted to use this as the thumbnail. I didn't, but I wanted to. Odog is here. Odog says, greetings all. Welcome, Odog. Appreciate you being here, friend. Who can cancel people in their dreams as retribution against the parents who burned him alive. And this was, it might have just been the time period, and I noticed that they did this also with It, Stephen King's It, where the protagonists were child cancelers, whereas today they added the PDF file elements to both remakes of the It and Nightmare on Elm Street. And I don't know, it might have been the time, and you can absolutely view this metaphor as this film as a metaphor for childhood trauma. Also thought about using this as the thumbnail, but it works. Like I do like looking and doing deep dives in movies, but let's just accept it as a at face value, as a boogeyman who lives in your dreams and can cross into reality. Also, it's interesting. I was watching A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, which I'd seen years ago, but I had the DVD and a lot I bought because I wanted the Nightmare on Elm Street Blu-ray. So I finally watched it, and Lawrence Fishburne is in it, which is interesting because, as you know, he's Morpheus from The Matrix, which arguably deals with the same things, living in a dream world where you can die from the trauma that gets inflicted to you in the dream world. So that's one of the elements of this movie, and also it's a shared dream. David says, today was a cheat meal, so a Wendy's faux and a 7-piece stuffed jalapeno. Well done, David. You do need a cheat meal. I did not have a cheat meal today. Not intentionally, mostly out of laziness. Couldn't be bothered. And I also haven't gone to the grocery store and have nothing to eat. The cupboard is bare. Moving on. Craven filmed A Nightmare on Elm Street on an estimated budget of $1.1 million. The film was released in November of 1984 in limited theaters until its nationwide theatrical release on November 16 and grossed $57 million worldwide. The film received critical acclaim upon its release and has since been considered to be one of the greatest horror films ever made. I have to agree with that. The film spawned a franchise consisting of 6 sequels, a television series, Freddy's Nightmares from the 80s, a crossover with the Friday the 13th, Freddy vs. Jason, various other merchandise, and a remake of the same name. Along with Stunts, Polyester, and Alone in the Dark, it was one of the first films produced by New Line Cinema, who by that point mostly distributed films, leading the company to become a successful mini-major film studio and earning it the nickname The House That Freddy Built. The film is credited with carrying on many tropes found in low-budget horror films of the 1970s and 80s, originating in John Carpenter's 1978 horror film Halloween, including the morality play that revolves around sexual promiscuity in teenagers resulting in their eventual death, leading to the term slasher film. Yes, but it is a supernatural slasher film. Need to make that distinction. Critics and film historians state that the film's premise is the struggle to define the distinction between dreams and reality, manifested by the lives and dreams of teens in the film. Later critics praised the film's ability to transgress the boundaries between the imaginary and real, which is basically what all cinema does. And one of the reasons why I love it. You're watching a dream. You're watching a screenwriter's dream, an actor's dream, a director's dream, filmmaker's dream. You're watching. Hollywood used to be called the Dream Factory, and that's one of the things I enjoy about cinema in general. The film was followed by A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, in 1985, and in 2021. A Nightmare on Elm Street was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. High praise indeed. Moving on to the plot. Teenager Tina Gray awakens from a terrifying nightmare in which a disfigured man wearing a bladed glove attacks her in a boiler room. Her mother points out the mysterious slashes on her nightgown. Tina's best friend Nancy Thompson, that's Heather Langenkamp, and Nancy's boyfriend Glenn Lance, that's Johnny Depp, reveal that they too had nightmares about the same disfigured man, shared dreams. During a sleepover at Tina's house, Tina's boyfriend Rod arrives and they have intercourse. That's one word the algorithm will allow. Intercourse also means conversation. It doesn't necessarily mean the naughty bits. David says, Kodak says RR woof to Sadie. She's kind of lying half on her chair and half on my lap. She's very tired. I walked her a lot today. Nancy's policeman father, Don Thompson, played by John Saxon, you may know him from Enter the Dragon, arrests Rod despite his pleas of innocence. But actually, no. Sorry. They have intercourse. When Tina falls asleep, she dreams of the disfigured man who attacks her. In real life, Rod sees her fatally slashed by an unseen force, forcing him to flee. Nancy and Glenn find Tina bloodied and dead. And have to point out that all the effects are, of course, analog, in camera. And they are very artistic and, in their own way, beautiful to watch. Beautiful might not be the right word, but they are certainly artistic. All the more so that they're actually real. And this has always been one of my favorite scenes. It's completely analog and just so... It's just such a childhood fear of just holding your arms out and, and they can catch you that way because you have a stranger has his arms out, even though you could easily run under him or, run away. Nancy's policeman father, Don Thompson, arrests Rod despite his pleas of innocence. At school, Nancy falls asleep in class and dreams that the man chases her to the boiler room. She deliberately burns her arm on a pipe, which startles her to awake in class and notices a burn mark on her arm. Nancy visits Rod at the police station, where he describes Tina's cancellation along with his own recent nightmares about the same man. At home, Nancy falls asleep in the bathtub, very iconic scene, and is nearly drowned by the man. She then relies on caffeine to stay awake and invites Glenn to watch over her as she sleeps. Of course, she falls asleep, and in her dream, she sees the man preparing to cancel Rod in his cell, but he turns his attention towards her. Nancy wakes up when her alarm clock goes off. The man cancels Rod, staging it as a self-cancellation. At his funeral, Nancy's parents become worried when she describes her dreams. Her mother, Marge, later takes her to a sleep disorder clinic where, in a dream, Nancy grabs the man's fedora with the name Fred Krueger written in it and pulls it into the real world. After barricading the house, Marge explains that Freddy Krueger was an insane child canceller who canceled 20 children, but was released on a technicality. He was then burned alive by the victim's parents, who sought vigilante justice. Now a vengeful ghost, Krueger is canceling Nancy and her friends out of revenge and to satiate his psychopathic needs. Glenn falls asleep and is canceled by Krueger. He's sucked into the bed, and a stream of blood shoots out. It's glorious and very easy to film. They just turned the room upside down, the camera right side up, and just poured blood through the bed. But it's analog. Now alone, Nancy asks her father, who is across the street investigating Glenn's death, to break into the house in 20 minutes. She rigs booby traps all around the house and grabs Krueger out of her dream and into the real world. The booby traps allow her to light him on fire and lock him in the basement. Turnabout is fair play. You're in my world now, Freddy. I think that's a direct quote from the movie. The police arrive to find that Krueger has escaped from the basement. Nancy and Dawn find a burning Krueger smothering Marge in her bedroom, After Don extinguishes the fire, Kruger and Marge vanish into the bed before Kruger rises behind Nancy. Realizing that Kruger is fueled by his victim's fear, she calmly turns her back to him, and Kruger evaporates. Nancy steps outside into a foggy morning where all her friends and her mother are still alive. She gets into Glenn's convertible to go to school when the top suddenly comes down, and it's colored in the iconic green and red stripes of his sweater. I want to get one of those sweaters. They have them on Amazon. And locks them in as the car speeds down the street while Marge waves them goodbye on the doorstep. 3 girls in white dresses playing jump rope chant Freddy Krueger's nursery rhyme, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you, as Marge is grabbed by Krueger through the front door window. And that's how it ends. She's in a dream. And that last scene brings chills. Even now, I've got like goosebumps. You can't see, but I do. But because, it's like the front door is like this wide. I mean, the front door window. And an arm, with the iconic glove and sweater comes through and just sucks her in. It grabs her. It's the actress, Ronnie Blakely. And then, they cut to like some kind of dummy that can deflate. And he just like pulls her through the door. It's done really well with the soundtrack. It's a great ending. Makeup artist David B. Miller designed Krueger's disfigured face based on photographs of actual burn victims obtained from the UCLA Medical Center. Development. Why is Sadie interested in this movie? She doesn't necessarily like horror movies. There's Johnny Depp. A Nightmare on Elm Street contains many biographical elements from director Wes Craven's childhood. The film was inspired by several newspaper articles printed in the LA Times in the 1970s about Hmong refugees who, fleeing to the United States because of war and genocide in Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, suffered disturbing nightmares and sometimes refused to sleep. Some of the men died in their sleep soon after. Medical authorities called the phenomenon Asian death syndrome. The condition afflicted men between the ages of 19 and 57 and was believed to be sudden unexplained death syndrome, or Brugada syndrome. Craven stated it was a series of articles in the LA Times, 3 small articles about men from Southeast Asia who were from immigrant families and had died in the middle of nightmares. And the paper never correlated them, never said, hey, we've had another story like this. The 1970s pop song Dreamweaver by Gary Wright sealed the story for Craven, giving him not only an artistic setting to jump off from, but a synthesizer riff for the movie soundtrack. Craven has also stated that he drew some inspiration for the film from Eastern religions. Other sources attribute the inspiration for the film to be a 1968 student film project made by Craven's students at Clarkson University. The student film parodied contemporary horror films and was filmed along Elm Street in Potsdam, New York. The film's villain, Freddy Krueger, is drawn from Craven's early life. One night, a young Craven saw an elderly man walking on the side path outside the window of his home. The man stopped to glance at a startled Craven and walked off. This served as the inspiration for Krueger. Initially, Freddy Krueger was intended to be a child M-worder. But Craven eventually characterized him as a child canceller to avoid being accused of exploiting a spate of highly publicized child M station cases that occurred in California around the time of the film's production. On Freddy's nature, Craven states that, quote, in a sense, Freddy stands for the worst of parenthood and adulthood, the dirty old man, the nasty father, and the adults who want children to die rather than help them prosper. He's the boogeyman and the worst fear of children, the adult that's out to get him. He's a very primal figure, sort of like Kronos devouring his children, that evil, twisted, perverted father figure who wants to destroy and is able to get them at their most vulnerable moment, which is when they're asleep. That's a nice quote. By Krueger's account, his own adolescent experiences led him to the name of Freddy Krueger. He had been bullied at school by a child named Fred Krueger. That's the best revenge. Craven had done the same thing in his film The Last House on the Left, where the villain's name was shortened to Krug. Craven chose to make Krueger's sweater red and green after reading an article in the 1982 Scientific American that these two colors were the most clashing colors to the human retina. Interesting because, I associate red and green with Christmas cards. I was picking out a Christmas card for this year, Snoopy on his doghouse, and I specifically wanted it because the roof was red and the background of the card was green. And I do want one of those Freddy Krueger sweaters. I am going to get one. They have them on Amazon. Craven strove to make Krueger different from the other horror films of the villains of the era. In 2014, he recalled, a lot of cancelers were wearing masks. Leatherface, Michael Myers, Jason. I wanted my villain to have a mask, but also be able to talk and taunt and threaten. So I thought of him being burned and scarred. He also said the canceller should use something other than a knife because it was too common. So I thought, how about a glove with steak knives? I gave the idea to our special effects guy, Jim Doyle. Ultimately, 2 models of the gloves were built. The hero glove, which was only used whenever anything needed to be cut, and the stunt glove that was less likely to cause injury. For a time, Craven had considered a sickle as the weapon of choice for the canceller, but by around the third or fourth drafts of the script, the iconic glove had become his final choice, and that was a great choice. It's very, iconic is the right word. It's perfect just to distinguish yourself from the other villains of the era. Also was completely unique. But as far as a weapon, slashing is more of a fright tactic, and a disarming tactic. It won't cancel you. You have to do stabbing. A slash maybe if you get on the neck or something, if you get lucky. But mostly, what I like about it is it's just so threatening to show it. Like this scene, And also it's animalistic. He's got like the Wolverine claws. Moving on to writing. Wes Craven began writing the screenplay for A Nightmare on Elm Street around 1981 after he had finished the production of Swamp Thing. He pitched it to several studios, but each one of them rejected it for different reasons. The first studio to show interest was Walt Disney Productions, although they wanted Craven to tone down the content to make it suitable for children and preteens as a family-friendly PG-13 film. However, Craven declined. Another studio pitched to was Paramount, who passed on the project due to its similarity to Dreamscape, also released in 1984. Universal Studios also passed. Craven, who was in a desperate personal and financial straits during this period, later framed the company's rejection letter on a wall in his office, which reads in its December 14th, 1982 print, "We have reviewed the script you have submitted, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Unfortunately, the script did not receive an enthusiastic enough response from us to go forward at this time. However, when you have a finished print, please get in touch and we would be delighted to screen it for a possible pickup." And Dreamscape was about, it starred Dennis Quaid and Kate Capshaw, but it was about kind of like it's a sci-fi horror adventure film, and it's about Dennis Quaid is a psychic who's able to enter dreams, and he gets recruited by a government agency to, just to be a spy for them. So yeah, it explores the same themes. Finally, the fledgling and independent New Line Cinema Corporation, which had up to that point only distributed films, agreed to produce the film. Distributing films, obviously, that's about marketing them to the movie theaters. Producing a film, that's about kicking in the money to make the production. Hence the name producer. During filming, New Line's distribution deal for the film fell through and for 2 weeks was unable to pay its cast and crew. Although New Line had gone on to make bigger and more profitable films, A Nightmare on Elm Street was its first commercial success, and the studio is often referred to as the house that Freddy built. This is the house that Biscuit built. New Line Cinema lacked the financial resources for the production themselves, and so had to turn to external financiers. They found two investors in England, who each contributed 40% and 30% respectively to the necessary funds. One of the producers of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre contributed 10%, and home video distributor Media Home Entertainment contributed 20% of the original budget. According to producer Robert Shea, all of the film's original investigators backed out at one point or another during pre-production. The original budget was $700,000. It ended up at $1.1 million. Half the funding came from some Yugoslavian guy who had a girlfriend who wanted to be in movies. I wish they had mentioned who that girlfriend was. Actor David Warner was originally cast to play Freddy. And he was in Star Wars. I think, if I'm not. No, he's not. I was thinking of someone else. Sorry, makeup tests were done, but he had to drop out due to scheduling conflicts. Replacing him was difficult at first. Kane Hodder, who would later be best known for playing fellow slasher icon Jason Voorhees, was among those who Wes Craven talked with about the role of Freddy. According to Kane Hodder, I had a meeting with Wes Craven about playing a character he was developing called Freddy Krueger. At the time, Wes wasn't sure what kind of person he wanted for the role of Freddy, so I had as good a shot as anybody else. He was initially thinking of a big guy for the part, but he was also thinking of somebody who had real burn scars, but obviously changed the whole line of thinking and went with Robert Englund, who's smaller. I would have loved to play the part, but I do think Wes made the right choice. Yeah, Kane Hodder, very physically imposing. What's his height? Hodder. Yeah, he's 6'2". Yeah, but he was perfect for Jason. But Freddy needed to be played by a smaller, thinner character frame. Hodder would, in a way, eventually play Freddy as the hand that grabs Jason's mask at the epilogue in Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday from 1993, Wes Craven explains, I couldn't find an actor to play Freddy Krueger with the same ferocity I was seeking. Everyone was too quiet, too compassionate towards children. Then Robert Englund auditioned. He wasn't as tall as I'd hoped. He had baby fat on his face, but he impressed me with his willingness to go to the dark places in his mind. Robert understood Freddy, and Mama One and Papa One are here. Everyone say hi to Mama One and Papa One. And then Wes Craven has a quote here on the casting of Robert Englund. I looked at hundreds of guys and a lot of old men. I wanted somebody that was very agile. I learned from making films like The Hills Have Eyes that it wasn't the bigness of the villain that paid off. It was the evil he was able to transmit as an actor. I wanted somebody who was an actor rather than a stuntman, somebody who could convey a sense of evil and who was very enthusiastic about getting to an evil state. You really have to get malicious and malevolent, and a lot of actors just don't want to get there. Their heart isn't in it. You have to find somebody who is comfortable with that idea and isn't threatened by it. He knows it isn't him, but can go there. Robert Englund filled the bill after we found him, quite late in the casting. His delight with it is that he has been playing nebbishes and good guys, and was looking forward to playing somebody older and evil. Englund has stated that Craven was indeed in search of a big giant man originally, but casting director Annette Benson had talked Craven into seeing him about the role of Englund after Englund had auditioned for National Lampoon's Class Reunion. Before Englund's agent at the time, Joe Rice, sent him to the casting office, Rice's friend Rhett Topham recommended Englund to act rat-like and weasel-like, adding that when we read about abusers and M-worders in the newspaper, they're not big hulking men, but weasels. I thought he should go and play it like that, and it worked. Englund had darkened his lower eyelids with cigarette ash on his way to the audition and slicked his hair back. I looked strange. I sat there and listened to Wes talk. He was tall and preppy and erudite. I posed a bit like Klaus Kinski, and that was the audition. He later said. He took the part because it was the only project that fit his schedule between the hiatus between the V miniseries and series. Casting for Nancy, Craven said he wanted someone very non-Hollywood for the role of Nancy, and he believed Langenkamp met this quality. Langenkamp, who had appeared in several commercials and a TV film, had taken time off from her studies at Stanford to continue acting. She eventually landed the role of Nancy Thompson after an open audition, beating out more than 200 actresses. Langenkamp was already known to Annette Benson, as she had auditioned for Night of the Comet, The Last Starfighter, previously losing out to Catherine Mary Stewart at both occasions. Demi Moore, Courtney Cox, Tracy Gold, and Jennifer Grey all have been rumored to have auditioned for A Nightmare on Elm Street. And they all went on to have far greater careers than Heather Langenkamp, regrettably. Regrettably for Heather, that is. Langenkamp returned as Nancy in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, and played a fictionalized version of herself in Wes Craven's New Nightmare from 1994. Moving on to Glenn, a.k.a. Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp was another unknown when he was cast, initially accompanied by his friend Jackie Earle Haley, who went on to play Freddy in the 2010 remake to an audition. According to Depp, the role of Glenn was originally written as a big blonde beach jock football player guy, far from his own appearance, but Wes Craven's daughters picked Depp's headshot out from the set. He showed them. Wes Craven's teen daughters. Depp got his own nod in a cameo role, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, as a man on TV, and later in the Freddy vs. Jason intro, in clips from earlier films. Charlie Sheen was considered for the role, but allegedly wanted too much money. Annette Benson states that they did in fact offer the part to Charlie Sheen, but he passed on it due to his agent demanding twice the weekly wage of $1,142 in 1984. That's like $5,000 now, maybe $10,000. Let's look that up. $1 in 1984. Okay, I take it back. $1 in 1984 is equivalent in purchasing power to about $2.12 today. So yeah, it's just twice that. Sheen himself objected to the sentiment that he turned down the role for the reason of money, saying, "I didn't price myself out of it because I didn't get greedy until years later. That came much later. I just didn't get it. I've never been more wrong about interpreting a script. I just didn't get it completely. I still took a meeting with Wes, and when I met him, I said, 'Look, with all due respect, and as a fan of your talents, I just don't see this guy wearing a funny hat with a rotted face and a striped sweater and a bunch of clacky fingers. I just didn't see this catching on.'" Mark Patton, who would be later cast as Jesse Walsh in the sequel, auditioned for the role of Glenn, and claimed that the auditioners had been winnowed down to him and Johnny Depp before Depp got the role. Other actors like John Cusack, John Cryer, Brad Pitt, Kiefer Sutherland, Nicolas Cage, and C. Thomas Howell have been mentioned over the years, but Annette Benson has failed to definitely recall those actors as having been among the auditioners. Though Cage had probably not auditioned for A Nightmare on Elm Street, he was in fact involved in introducing Johnny Depp to acting. Cage's own agent, who introduced Benson to him, resulting in an audition to the film. Yeah, Johnny Depp and Nicolas Cage were hanging out. I don't know if they had a band together, but they were going to the same clubs. And Johnny Depp came to Hollywood to become a rock star. And he became friends with Nicolas Cage, I believe through one of his band members, mutual friends, and Nicolas Cage was like, "You should try acting, man, and you got the looks for it." But Johnny Depp, yeah, he wanted to be a rock star, and instead he became an international movie star. Funny how life works out that way. I wanted to be a rock star, and instead I became a mid-range YouTuber, gaming YouTuber. Mom One asks, "How was everyone's day? We took it easy today. Papa One and me went and got our fresh game meat, and we bought live ducks, geese, and some rabbits." And Papa One says, "And a darn duck bit me right in my hand. Thank God I can't feel that hand." I'm sorry to hear that, Papa One. And Sundays says, "Sundays are my reset day. Cleaning laundry, getting things to make breakfast, lunch, dinners till the end of the week." Yeah, you batch your lunches and dinners. I do that as well. I do that with both Sadie's meals and my meals. And ironically, I use the same containers. But, she gets the bottom shelf of the fridge and I get the top shelf. But sometimes the two of them get mixed. And Sadie gets confused when I pull out one of my lunches because she thinks that's one of her lunches. And technically, it is. Principal photography began on June 11th, 1984 and lasted a total of 32 days. The high school the protagonists attend was filmed at John Marshall High School, where many other productions, such as Grease and Pretty in Pink, have been filmed. The fictional street address of Nancy's house in the film is 1428 Elm Street. In real life, this house is a private home located in Los Angeles, and I won't say the address. The Lance's family home was, the boiler room scenes and the police station interior were shot in the Lincoln Heights jail, while the exterior used for the police station was the Cahuenga Branch Library. Rob's burial was filmed at Evergreen Cemetery. During production, over 500 gallons of fake blood were used for special effects production. We need more blood. For the blood geyser sequence, that's Johnny Depp's death, the filmmakers used the same revolving room set that was used for Tina's death. While filming the scenes, the cameraman and Craven himself were mounted in fixed seats taken from a Datsun B210 car while the set rotated. The film crew inverted the set and attached the camera so that it looked like the room was right side up. They then poured the red water into the room. They used dyed water because the special effects blood did not have the right look for a geyser. During filming of this scene, the red water poured out in an unexpected way and caused the rotating room to spin. Much of the water spilled out of the bedroom window, covering Craven and Langenkamp. Earth's gravity was also used to film another take for the TV version, where a skeleton shoots out from the hollowed-out bed and smashes into the quote-unquote ceiling. The bathtub scene, one of my favorite scenes. Oh, dog. The scene where Nancy is attacked by Krueger in her bathtub was accomplished with a special bottomless tub. The tub was put in a bathroom set that was built over a swimming pool. During the underwater sequence, Heather Langenkamp was replaced by a stunt woman. The melting staircase in Nancy's dream was Robert Shea's effect based on his own nightmares. It was created using pancake batter. Now I want pancakes. Following Tina's death, Nancy repeatedly dreams of an animated corpse of Tina in a translucent body bag. During the scene in which Freddy cancels Rod in the prison cell, Nancy witnesses a centipede crawl out of Tina's mouth. The filmmakers initially attempted to achieve this effect by having Wiss force a rubber centipede out of her mouth. This effect, seen in the final film, was accomplished by having an actual centipede crawl out of the mouth of a clay sculpture of Weiss's likeness. During filming, the centipede was temporarily lost on set. About halfway through the film, when Nancy is trying to stay awake, a scene from Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead appears on television. Craven decided to include the scene because Raimi had included a Hills of Eyes poster in The Evil Dead. That's clever. In return, Raimi featured a Freddy Krueger glove in the workshed scene of Evil Dead 2, and later in Ash vs. Evil Dead. I don't remember that from Evil Dead 2. Mom one says pancakes sound good with some ham and eggs. Yeah, it does. I would eat that right now. Craven originally planned for the film to have a more evocative ending. Nancy cancels Krueger by ceasing to believe in him, then awakens to discover that everything that happened in the film was an elongated nightmare. However, New Line leader Robert Shea demanded a twist ending in which Krueger disappears and all seems to have been a dream, only for the audience to discover it was a dream within a dream within a dream, which I agree is a better ending. The original ending, quote, from Wes Craven, the original ending of the script has Nancy coming out the door. It's unusually cloudy and a foggy day. A car pulls up with her dead friends in it. She's startled. She goes out and gets in the car wondering what the heck is going on. And they drive into the fog, with the mother left standing on the doorstep. And that's it. It was very brief and suggestive that maybe life is sort of dreamlike too. Shea wanted Freddy Krueger to be driving the car and have the kids screaming. It all became very negative. I felt a philosophical tension to my ending. Shea said, "That's so 60s. It's stupid." Okay, boomer. It was 1984. Everyone's a boomer. I refused to have Freddy in the driver's seat, and we thought up about 5 different endings. The one we used with Freddy pulling the mother through the doorway amused us all so much that we couldn't not use it. There's censorship issues. Let's read about censorship issues. When the film was submitted to the MPAA film rating system, they required 2 cuts to grant it an R rating. The theatrical version was released with an R rating, and after 13 seconds of cuts in the United Kingdom, the film was released theatrically and on home video uncut. They don't say what the cuts were. contemporaneous critical response. In a contemporary review, Kim Newman wrote in the Monthly Film Bulletin that A Nightmare on Elm Street was closer to a Stephen King adaptation with its small-town setting and inverted monster myth. Newman concluded that the film found Craven emerging from his recent career slump, Swamp Thing, The Hills Have Eyes Part 2, Invitation to Hell, with a fine and perhaps definitive boogeyman to back him up, and that the film was a superior example of an overworked genre. Paul Attanasio of the Washington Post praised the film, stating that for such a low-budget movie, Nightmare on Elm Street is extraordinarily polished. The script is consistently witty. The camera work by cinematographer Jacques Hafkin is crisp and expressive. The review noted that the genre has built-in limitations, but Craven faces the challenge admirably. A Nightmare on Elm Street is halfway between an exploitation flick and classic surrealism. Yeah, I should mention that. It's a very surreal movie. The review also commented on Freddy Krueger, calling him the most chilling figure in the genre since The Shape, or Michael Myers, made his debut in Halloween. Here's Sadie for a Mama one and Papa one. Variety commented that the film was a highly imaginative horror film, praising the special effects while finding that the film fails to tie up his thematic threads satisfyingly at the conclusion. The review commented negatively that some of the scenes involving Nancy's family, noting that the movie's worst scenes involve Nancy and her alcoholic mother. On character development, Newman stated that the impression that about 200 pages worth of characterization had been compressed into cliché details like boozy Ronnie Blakely demonstrating her renewed self-respect by throwing away half a full bottle. Newman said that the nightmares in the film worked against itself, stating that while kissing telephones and bottomless bathtubs are disorienting in the David Cronenberg spirit, another great director of the time, they get in the way of the relentless pursuing monster aspect that John Carpenter, one of my favorite directors, manages so well. My one says, "Hey Sadie, hope your dad has given you plenty of potent canine bait." I have, but it's never enough. How is everyone? And that, my friends, is A Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984. One of my favorite movies. I have it on Blu-ray. What's that about? And I try to watch it every year. Also, I should mention that it has a very, it's a very 80s movie. The fashion and the clothes and the cars and the details, landlines. But the soundtrack is also very 80s. It's very synth heavy, like a lot of stings, a lot of it's a very 80s movie. The hair, everything, but I like it. I think you'd like it as well. It's very haunting. Far more clever than anything that comes out these days. Chrissy says, speaking of diet, everything David eats is low sodium and lower in cholesterol, and his heart meds. As his heart heals, we have to make sure he keeps all those numbers low. He's allowed a cheat meal every 2 weeks. David, you are going to get ripped with your PT, and when you're even stronger, you can start doing, some weight training. It'll keep you young. You're going to look great. You're going to look fantastic when you get through this. I'm very happy for you. Speaking of strength and weight training, I'm very, I work out a lot, some say obsessively, easily 5 or 6 days a week, that I can do push-ups and chin-ups and pull-ups for days. I'm very strong for my size, but it's like body weight strength. I would call it like gymnast strength or R word strength. Not allowed to say that anymore, but it always makes me laugh. But uh, I got to tell you, after spending 10 hours laying vinyl flooring in a kitchen and hallway and bathroom, doing actual real world physical labor, you cannot imagine how tired I was. I was just beat. The next day I was sore. Like I'd run a marathon or a triathlon, both of which I have done. It's just, I was using different muscles, and I think I also kind of poisoned myself from from inhaling all the fumes from the adhesive. But yeah, it was weird doing actual physical real world labor. Just wiped me out. What's that about? But I thought I'd mention that. I don't think I would make it as one of your farm hands, Papa One. I don't think I have it in me. Well, I'd be like miserable for for maybe the first 2 weeks until I got into the routine of it. But Chrissy says he cannot exercise yet. He starts exercise rehab on Wednesday. Okay, well, I'm looking forward to that. I'm a big proponent of exercise and working out. Um, 10 viewers in the chat. Welcome, friends. Appreciate you being here. Just talking about, somebody sent me an email. I think his name was Brandon, he sent me an email yesterday asking if I was going to do a Saturday movie night. And, I don't believe I've ever talked to a Brandon in the chat. So he must be either lurking or watching on the replays. And I just want to say, one, Brandon, thank you for the email. Appreciate you, friend. I don't necessarily respond to emails, personal emails, that is. I will talk to you in the chats, sometimes in the comments, but, Saturdays are not a very popular day for the channel. But I appreciate your interest. I was thinking about it. I just didn't have anything in the queue. I just kind of come up with these titles on impulse, sometimes the same day. As a matter of fact, for Nightmare on Elm Street, I came up with this idea this morning, and I was like, okay, that would make a good movie night discussion. So I don't usually have these unless I'm suggested something, like David does sometimes, Pale Rider. We just kind of wing it. Papa One says, one thing I'm grateful for is farm life because I never had to work out. I just worked. I always had abs when I was a younger man. Still do, honestly. I'm just old now, LOL. Yeah, farm work is honest work, and it is hard work. One of my best friends, personal trainer, but he grew up on a farm in Omaha. And he was just naturally ripped. He said his father was the same way, but it's like great upper body, but he was going for more of a bodybuilder build. Glynis Coleman says, hello everyone. Greetings, Glynis. And he was at the time, I don't know if he is anymore, we've kind of lost touch, consuming special medicine that helped him lift harder and recover faster and burn fat faster. I've been around, because I've been around the fitness industry, most of my life since high school. I've been around special medicine my whole life, but most of my life, let's say. I've never had any personal experience with it, but I've always known a bunch of, gentlemen who have indulged in that. I never wanted to. It was never an ambition of mine because I never wanted to get big. Papa One says, Glennis, I hope you're well. Mama One and David and Miko say hello to channel member Glennis Coleman. Greetings, Glennis. Glennis says, hey, Mama and Papa and David, hope everyone is all right. Hope you're all right. Mama One says, we've been binging the Lyle and Eric Menendez show. We are looking at Prison Break. Is that a good show? I liked it, Mama One. I remember watching that. You know, it's the one with he's got the intricate tattoos. The first like 2 seasons, I kind of lost interest. You know, I can't. He has an ultimate goal in season 1 that I'm not going to spoil for you. But later on, like season 2 or 3, he achieves that ultimate goal. And but then the story continues because there's a larger conspiracy involved. And I kind of lost interest at that point. But yeah, I can recommend it. Papa One asks, I have to ask Super Antonio, what do you do for exercise? Do you go to a gym? I do not. I jump rope and I do push-ups and pull-ups and chin-ups. And I have a freestanding pull-up bar. I'll show it to you when I do it like a house tour. I usually do a house tour when I have Christmas decorations up. So I'll do a house tour around December. I was going to do a Halloween decoration house tour because I had this idea of doing a Halloween display of the action figures, but I don't think I'm going to get it up in time. So yeah, I just do jump ropes and calisthenics. I used to lift weights, but I don't anymore. And then again, when I lifted weights, it was mostly for toning. It wasn't to get big. You know, I've always, you know, my ideal physique has always been something between Bruce Lee and Brad Pitt in Fight Club. You know, I just like looking lean. Glennis asks, I hope everyone on the East Coast survived the storm. It was rough here on Thursday. And Papa One says, we had a lot of rain, Glennis, but no flooding near us, just tons of rain and mud. We had a few trees down on our property, but we are fine. Chrissy V says, and Lyle and Eric show is not as interesting to me as I thought it would be. I'm sorry to hear that, Chrissy V, but there's a new American Horror Story coming right around the corner. Really looking forward to that. Not because I don't get to watch that one, but I get to watch last year's one because Amazon will have it for free. Papa One says, farm dogs got to go to the basement, so they always love that. And Glennis says, we had more wind than rain. Mama One says about Lila and Eric Menendez, yeah, Chrissy, it starts good but loses momentum. Wish they would stick to serial cancelers. And Glennis says hi to Chrissy. What am I watching? I'm still watching Elementary with Lucy Liu as Watson. I think I just started season 3. I'm enjoying it. I remember it came out at the same time as the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock Holmes, which I think was just called Sherlock. And I remember at the time, it's like I had to pick between the two, Star Trek versus Star Wars, and I went with Benedict Cumberbatch. David says, lost interest in The Walking Dead mid-season 7. I lost interest when, spoiler alert, on a 10-year-old TV show when Glenn got canceled. Mom One says next Sinister Sunday should be about Jimmy Savile or Richard Ramirez. Wow. Jimmy Savile is quite a story. That would involve a lot of linguistic gymnastics on my part. Didn't he die before he was never persecuted? The accusations came after his death. So he basically got away with it. David says, same here, Super Antonio. Yeah, Glenn was one of my favorite characters. I was really rooting for him. But it occurred to me, for that whole genre, I enjoy the first part of the zombie apocalypse. When it first starts happening, I like the collapse of social order, the original gathering of supplies, the disbelief that the dead are walking, and the fortifications of wherever you start, wherever you decide to make your stand. I don't like, Walking Dead turned into like a survival series. How do you survive and prosper in the zombie apocalypse? And I'm less interested in that because it just becomes a metaphor for humans being evil to each other. It was interesting that the real enemies in The Walking Dead were just other humans. After a while, the walkers just became nuisances. Mom once says, I watched The Reckoning, and he would refer to his attacks as just trying to give you a cuddle. So you could say that. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We'll figure out what we're going to do next week. Next week. That is a next week challenge. Not a problem. Just a challenge. Just like I'm not sure what we're going to do this week, but I'll figure out something. Papa One says, in a zombie series, if a character makes it past 4 to 6 years in the apocalypse, they're going to be fine. The survival part is gone. If they can survive a few years, then they can survive or prosper. Yeah, I agree. But I lose interest. As a film or as a genre, I just like the collapse of civilization and social order. I can watch that over and over. Different variations of that. At any rate, that's about all I have for you tonight, friends. I appreciate hanging out with you as always. Hop. Mama One and Papa One always say, hey, family. They see us as and chat as their family, and I have to agree that I see you guys as family as well. And I look forward to these live streams just as much as you do. It's fun for me to talk about my day. Glennis Coleman also stopped watching The Walking Dead around the same time. Miko says, thanks for the stream. Thank you, Miko. Shout out to the mods, Miko and David and Marco and Serena, absent friends. David and Chrissy, Mama One and Papa One. Hearts for David and Chrissy, hearts for Mama One and Papa One. Shout out to channel member Glennis Coleman and channel member O-Dog, channel member and mod. David's also a channel member. I didn't forget about you, O-Dog. Shout out to O-Dog. As always, appreciate you, friends. Enjoy the rest of your evening and have a great week. Like and subscribe.